Alright, let's take a look at the first of our two global configuration commands. The first one we're going to look at is the secure boot config command. And the Cisco description of this is to take a snapshot of the router running configuration and securely archive it in persistent storage. Again, flash. You do actually have a second option with this, and that is to restore an already secured boot config, and we'll take a look at that in a little bit. But basically, here's your command from a global configuration, secure boot configuration, and you will get a message, hopefully, that says successfully secured the config archive, and it'll tell you, the flash location where this is. And we'll see this when we get on our router, that you will not actually be able to see this when you do a show flash or try to do a directory to find this file. That's the invisible file structure aspect of this command. So before we get too much into the configuration aspects, I would say of the two commands that comprise the Cisco IOS resilient configuration, the secure boot config, I would use that regardless of what you've got for backing up your configurations, simply because it's going to be storing this locally in a non-corruptible form on your flash. And I know a lot of people will have a configuration. They might save out the running configuration to flash just so they have something in case the configuration gets blown away. This adds to that with the benefit that it's uncorruptible. So, I would use this. It's even if you have, Cisco Works or Opsware or some other method of pushing out configurations, this is just like a little bit of a safety net, and it may somewhere down the line just save you some time, especially when you've got, monkeys in suits screaming at you to get the damn site up. This could save you a few minutes, which might seem like a few hours with the stress that you're under at that point. So, that said, let's get back into the configuration detail. Without any parameters, this command takes a snapshot of the router running configuration and securely archives it in persistent storage. Alright, we've gotten that. We've been hammered over the head with that. This is the important bit. The configuration archive is hidden and cannot be viewed or removed directly from the command line interface prompt, and we'll see that when we get on the router. Let's take this part to heart here. We recommend that you run this command after the router has been fully configured to reach a steady state of operations and the running configuration is considered complete for a restoration. So, you don't want to issue this command if you're starting, if you're configuring a router from scratch. You don't want to be like hostname R1 and then issue this command, because all you're going to get in there is the configuration, the running configuration that you have to that point. This is meant as a restoration configuration. Basically, treat it that way. And this is kind of neat. It says the secure archive uses the time of creation as its file name. Now again, you won't see this in the flash, but you will be able to see it with the show secure boot set command, and it'll show you, it's kind of nice because it tells you how old this secure boot configuration is based on the file name. Just keep in mind that you're going to want to have either NTP running or have your clock set so that this is not March 1st, 1993 or some Cisco default that it's going to stamp on there, because that'll throw off your ability to determine how old that config is. Secure boot config verification. This is our verification command. So you issue the show secure boot set and it will give you this output. We can see here that iOS image resilience is not active. That's the secure boot image command. But since we did issue the secure boot config command, we can see the configuration resilience. It shows the version, the major version number that was being used for the configuration when the running configuration was stored. It tells you what time it was activated at. Even if it didn't have this, you could extrapolate that from the file name here. You can see from the file name that it was created on November 21st, 2009 at 8:18 p.m. and 22 seconds, and that's exactly what it says up here. It tells you the size of the archive. Again, it's showing you that it's in this flash, but if you do a show flash, you are not going to see this file. And I included this because it's kind of interesting. It says the iOS resilience router ID is, and it gives you, letters and numbers. That's actually the serial number of your router. And we can show that here, that in this case we're using a 2851 with the serial number of XTP blah blah blah. So it incorporates that into the secure boot set. So we've seen how to configure the secure boot config. Let's go ahead and check out how to actually use it. And to use it is actually to restore the configuration. And you can read this bit here. It's kind of interesting. The number of restored copies that can be created is unlimited. So we saw that there was an option for restore on the command line when we're in configuration mode. And here we see secure boot config restore, and then you just specify a fully qualified path name to restore the configuration to. In this case, I've restored it to the flash card, and I've named the file my restore. When you issue that, hopefully you get configuration successfully restored as the file name that you specified. Now when I show flash, I do see a file, and that is the my restore file. This is what I've taken the invisible file that's stored there via the secure boot config, and then I've restored it to flash. So now it's a configuration that I can now save from flash to my startup or running config, whichever. I could also to verify this, if you type more and then flash : my restore, you'll be able to see what's in this file. But this is how you'll be using the feature to restore your configuration. You can see here that you're going to need to be able to get into enable mode and have rights to go into config T in order to restore this. And keep in mind, again, you're going to need to be on the console line. You can't do this from a VTY, and that'll keep creeping up. That is, I mean, at the end of the day, keep that in mind whenever you're planning to use this this feature. As I mentioned earlier, the secure boot config does not dynamically update. So when you save your running configuration, it doesn't affect your secure boot set at all. So if you want to update your secure boot config, it's a two-step process to that. So what you'll do is you go in and you'll go into configuration mode, and first you'll issue the no secure boot config, and that basically just clears out whatever boot config file you had currently. So you can see here that it renders it inactive, so it disables it. And then go ahead and just issue the secure boot config, and it will activate it. And you could tell here that there is a difference in these files, because remember, the timestamp is integrated into the file name. So you can see here that this was, both of these unfortunately were on the same day, but you can see this one was at 9:51 while this one was at 8:18. Trying to do my military math on the times here. And so then when you do the show secure boot set, you will see that it was updated. So you want to follow this process when you're going to change your running config, and you want to capture those changes in your secure boot config. So you could do, right before when you start your changes, you could just issue that and blow it away, the no secure boot config, do your changes, write it, and then go ahead and on your way out, enter the secure boot config command again. Or you can go ahead and do this at the end, where you've done all your updates to your running config, and then just do this process, the two commands right in a row. Remember, once again, you need to be in the console mode. I mean, you have to be accessing this router through the console in order to do this. So keep that in mind. I've said that about 15 times. I'll probably say it about 50 more times. That is the big quote-unquote gotcha with this feature set.